I was the only truck on that stretch of highway for miles when I came around a bend and saw a car stopped sideways across the shoulder, front end crushed against the guardrail. No flares, no hazard lights, just a sedan sitting wrong under my headlights. I slowed and pulled over because there was no one else around and no traffic noise behind me at all. The car had 3 people inside, all conscious, all quiet. They were sitting upright, staring forward, hands in their laps like they were waiting for something to happen. The driver looked at me when I knocked on the window, but his eyes kept drifting past me toward the tree line. I asked if they needed help. He nodded, but did not speak. That was when I noticed the bushes moving, not shaking from wind, not animals passing through. Something was standing back there, just deep enough to stay hidden, shifting its weight slowly. When my light hit the edge of the brush, whatever it was leaned away, then leaned back in, like it wanted me to know it was there, without showing itself. I told the passengers to stay put and went back to my cab to call it in. The radio had signal, but every time I tried to speak, the channel filled with clicking sounds that matched the movement in the bushes. Each time I stopped talking, it stopped too. Then something tapped the side of the sedan once. Then again, light taps like teasing. The passengers flinched in sync, but still did not move. One of them started crying quietly. I yelled toward the bushes and told whoever was there to back off. The movement stopped. Then it shifted closer, just enough that I could see part of a shape through the leaves, tall and narrow, never fully stepping out. It made a sound like it was copying the way my boots scraped gravel earlier. I backed toward my truck and kept my eyes on the brush. When I opened the cab door, something knocked on the back of the trailer, hard enough to make the metal ring. The bushes went still immediately, like it was listening for my reaction. I got back in the cab and locked the doors. The passengers in the sedan finally moved. All 3 turned their heads toward me at the same time. The driver mouthed something I could not hear through the glass. The bushes shifted again, closer to the road now. I pulled away without another word. In my mirrors, the sedan stayed where it was. The bushes did not move again. When I checked the news the next morning, there was no report of an accident on that stretch of road. I do not stop for roadside incidents anymore when there is no one else around to see what is standing back and waiting. The patrol lights came on behind me so suddenly that I barely had time to signal before pulling onto the shoulder, and I remember feeling relief because at least whatever had been pacing me for the last hour was about to be interrupted. I had been checking my mirrors nonstop, convinced something was riding my blind spot, close enough that I could feel it more than see it. The officer walked up slower than usual and stopped several feet short of my door, shining his light directly into the cab instead of at my face. He told me to shut off the engine and step out. When I asked what was going on, his voice shifted, tighter and louder, and he told me again. Without answering, I reached to kill the engine, and my wrist was grabbed from below the dash, fingers locking around me with enough force to stop the movement completely. I screamed and yanked back, slamming my arm into the steering wheel. The officer stepped back instantly and shouted for me to stay in the vehicle. his hand going to his radio instead of his weapon. The patrol lights flickered once, then went dark, leaving only my headlights and the glow from the dash. Hands closed around my ankles next, pulling my feet off the pedals and dragging me down in the seat. I kicked hard and felt the grip tighten without crushing, like whatever had me was adjusting rather than fighting. The cab rocked as weight shifted underneath it, metal groaning through the frame. The officer ran toward the rear of my trailer, shouting into his radio, but his voice cut off halfway through a sentence, like someone had muted him. Something slammed into the side of the cab with enough force to dent the door inward and shove me sideways. I reached for the emergency brake, and my shoulder was driven back into the seat by pressure from my left, pinning me there. The windshield fogged from the inside, even though the air was cold and the vents were blasting. I could hear movement below the floorboards, not scratching, just repositioning. The hands released me all at once, and the truck went completely still, engine idling like nothing had happened. I stayed frozen for a long moment, waiting for the weight to return, but it did not. When my legs finally worked again, I stumbled out of the cab. The patrol car was still running with its doors open, radio hissing softly. There were deep dents along the side of my trailer at shoulder height, spaced evenly, like something had braced itself there. The officer was gone. No footprints, no dropped gear, just an open door and an engine still warm. I stayed on the shoulder until sunrise. I do not stop for patrol lights on empty highways anymore.